back to Set Streets and Eats, guys. I'm Chris Bauer. I am in front of a vintage but modern McDonald's here in Mission, Kansas. Mission, Kansas is a southern suburb of Kansas City. And they started building these back in the 90s, early 2000s. They were kind of obviously meant to be a throwback to the red and whites, the original McDonald's buildings. Not a lot of those obviously existed by the time they started redoing these, so these were kind of a way to scatter the country with a few reminders of how McDonald's started. What was really cool about these is they used to have a lot of character in them. They would be individualized as far as decor. This one in particular had a lot of 50s Americana diner decor inside. Speedy was represented. He was actually between the arches up on top of the building in a neon sign, and inside they had a lot of really cool stuff. Unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, when they started doing the Forever Young remodel, they didn't want to tear these locations down like they are their standard McDonald's locations, so they basically just remodeled these locations into the normal drab prison gray new McDonald's locations. Unfortunately, that means when you walk into these, you're kind of hoping, expecting something cool, and it just looks like every other McDonald's inside now. But the outside of the building still has that cool look. That's about the only variation of McDonald's now. There's some more, obviously, but I'm just saying it's losing a lot of its individualistic character. So anyway, but a lot of these buildings would have these amazing old signs in front of them. A lot of them were unique. And then as the time went on throughout the 60s, Ray Kroc tried to make the signs a little bit more uniform. But there's a lot of really cool, unique signs, and there's still a few of those today, including one not too far from here that we're going to check out right now. So these signs are very rare. So there's about 12 of them left, and there's different variations of them. This particular sign, these type of signs, the single golden arch, the single golden arch with the McDonald's crest. Those were put in from 61 to 63. This particular sign over the years, because if you notice, the Mick and the Donald's are two different panels, so those have been replaced. Usually McDonald's is all done on one panel. So obviously there was some damage at some point and they replaced those. But the family crests, or the crest at the either end of McDonald's, is actually the McDonald's family crest, the McDonald brothers. This was a touch that Ray Kroc put on the signs when he was installing them as he was franchising these across the US. So this was of course one of the Ray Kroc franchises that was installed. He was basically involved in all the McDonald's built after the mid-50s. Of course, the McDonald's behind it has been torn down and made modern many, many years ago. But they have saved the sign, which I'm glad they did. It's a very, very cool piece of history that sits right here in Independence, Missouri. And it's very cool to look at. So once Kroc came on board with the McDonald's brothers as the main franchise agent, he of course inherited this design, or the red and white design. He had nothing to do with the design of those. They had of course already tried the franchising with several other people. They had designed their building to be this way. They wanted all of them to look uniform. Makes perfect sense. They understood branding back then, and that's what they were going for. So that was what Kroc inherited. It wasn't until later when he finally had the company back in the finally in the 60s, when the company was all his, that he started doing designs of his own, which would then of course lead in the late 60s to the major overhaul of McDonald's. But from the late 40s all the way up to the late 60s, that 20-year period, McDonald's looked like these. In small variations of that, but that was the main thing with the golden arches well above the building. It was a very important look. You could see them from a long time away. They would light up at night. It was a big deal. So that was part of that brand, and it became a American staple. different in here now. Of course, inside here used to have a whole lot more character. It had the 50s diner look to it. The decor was very 50s Americana. Lots of Speedy references. They even had a really cool divider between two booths. It was the big old logo, the golden arches with the roof or the line right between the middle of them. It looked really cool in here. I'll put some stills up of how it used to look before the remodel. Of course, like most of the McDonald's now, they remodeled it into that gray, lifeless Starbucks, Shake Shack, the prison model as the fans like to call it. But for some reason, the company calls it the Forever Young model, the modern model. It definitely doesn't have any character, unfortunately, but it is what it is. It's their company and they're doing it. But it's a bummer because this location and a lot of the modern vintage quote unquote locations like it had a lot of character around them, a lot of cool stuff going on in them, and that's all gone now. They took it all out, so it really is just a place to come and grab a quick bite now instead of a place to maybe grab a quick bite and hang out. So I guess that's progress. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this little trip down memory lane talking about these vintage, modern McDonald's. I always try to stop at these locations whenever you see them. There's not a ton of them, but they're still cool to stop at even though they've been remodeled. So I always try to stop at them. And I hope you guys enjoyed this stop as well. And I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye now.